Hi, I'm Martin Stokes and today we're at Partridge Lakes. It's a venue that was very good to me this year. I was lucky enough to qualify for the Fisho final on Willow Lake over there. It was a bit warmer back then, I was fishing shallow, but today it's gone a bit cooler. We're going to do some maggot fishing and some fishing with the Fjuka 2-in-1s, and I'm going to show you how I keep catching on the Fjukas when it goes cold. The bait that I brought today to my peg couldn't be any simpler. Nice cheap day. Got some fishery micros, some red maggots, Fjuka white 2-in-1s, the new micro Fjukas, and I've even got a yellow Neeonz. With the first frost this morning, I think the main thing in winter is just scaling everything down. Light main lines, light hook lengths, and more importantly, a light float. I think in the winter, especially in an F1 venue like this, a lot of the fish are not sat on bottom, but they're not sat up in the water. You won't catch them shallow. So a really light float, a 0.1 if you can get away with it when it's flat calm like this, is essential in just getting that nice slow fall of your hook bait through the water. So when fishing with a light float, it does allow you to catch them fish that are feeding off the bottom but don't want to go down. So all I've got on my rig is just a 0.14 main line with a strung out shot-in pattern of number 11s just to get that really small fall. And the hook length, it's a 6-inch hook length. It's a pre-tied hook length, it's a matrix, size 18, it's a 0.12 bottom. You could go a little bit lighter, but there's big carp now in these covies, and you've just got to give yourself every chance of getting one out. Elastic choice this time of year, scaled things down. Currently using a 9-jaw hollow by Preston. It's through a short kit, so it is a little bit pingier than a long kit, but it's soft enough on strike for them F1s just to swim out your peg. And you've got your puller bung, which is a must these days, just in case you hit one of them big carp during the winter. But this time of year, it's all about finding where them fish want to be. The fish won't come to feed like they do in the summer. You've got to go in search of them. The last 2 nights we've had, well, the last 2 days, sorry, we've had a lot of rain. So the fish could be anywhere. I've started off just down the track, just looking for fish. There's not been a sign. As soon as I've gone into the 3 foot up the shelf, that's where the fish want to be. That cold water's settled on the bottom, so the fish have gone up the slopes. So as soon as I put a bait in 3 foot of water, I've started getting bites. So it's important to target the right areas of your peg. I think later on in the day, the margins will come good. It's quite deep down the edges. You've got 3 foot, which is the same on that shelf across. So there's a good chance of catching late on. Now a great way of targeting your peg early on is dobbing. Now a lot of people dob bread across. Find about 3 foot of water, then fish about 2 foot deep in it. The dobbing rig's really simple. It's a Dean Townsend pinger in a 0.1. Bulk of the shot right underneath the float and just 1 dropper down the line. Really important to have a long lash of line, just gets that pole tip away from fish. 1, 2, 3 back shots as well. Something I like to use is the Fjuka Neeonz. The yellow ones and the white ones are probably my favourite. Just squash them a little bit and get them nice and flat. And another one, if you're tight like me, is the Fjuka 2-in-1s. The little white ones, perfect for the smaller F1s. You can squash that so it's completely flat and it'll just flutter down, making a nice slow fall. I think the advantage of using a Fjuka 2-in-1 or a Fjuka Neon over bread is if you put the actual hook bait in the water, you'll see the sensite attraction coming off it and it creates a little cloud. yet it still stays on the hook, so you've not got to worry about bread coming off your hook like you sometimes do. On venues like Partridge, you've got all the cover on the far bank, bulrushes, reeds, little pockets where them fish will be hanging out. By lowering in your Fjuka in that cover, you can pick off an early fish, and sometimes they're always the better sized fish that you can catch. You find with dobbing that you might not get a fish straight away. You might have to add a section on, go a little bit further out your peg, but eventually you will find a pocket of fish on that far bank. You might catch 2 or 3, then you might have to go chasing them out your peg a little bit more. So dobbing's a great way to start your match off in the winter or your pleasure session before introducing any bait into your peg. There's just no danger of overfeeding your peg and spoiling your day's fishing. Well, today don't expect the fish to be in the deeper water. That 3 foot line across on the slope I think is going to be the best line. It always tends to be a really good line in winter. It's where the fish want to be. Feeding wise, I just keep it really simple. Just a small amount of fishery micros and a small amount of the Fjuka micros in the natural colour. The beauty about the Fjuka micros is that they're perfect to hook. A size 20, 18, just flatten them down again, just helps with that slow fall. It's a brilliant way of catching fish. Hooking a traditional micro, it's not the easiest thing to do. So using a Fjuka definitely does help. Another line that I like to fish is just loose feeding maggots down the track. It's a great way of just trying to pull some fish into your peg and just get a volume of bait and the competition for fish feeding in your peg. Obviously if you're catching well on that 3 foot line, you stay over there or even find 3 foot down the edge fishing the Fjuka micros. But maggots down the middle can be a really good way of catching fish as well. I always like feeding it for about 3 hours before I'm going to fish it. Sometimes you can do a massive weight if them fish turn up on the maggot line later on. We've had a brilliant day at Partridge Lakes. It's time to go home now because it's going to get dark any minute. But it's been a typical day at Partridge. Nicked a few fish early, dobbing across. Then 3 foot, probably the best line today. Just tapping in a few micros, fishing a micro on the hook. And we've had a run short late on, some of them big F1s. So yeah, a cracking day's winter sport.